Hey, Carson.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was not
Okay.
turned on the video or mute, but it works now, so I don't know what's going on.
Hi.
I have to log off at like 8:35 or at least go to the phone for the last few. I have a client meeting at 9 in Broomfield.
Cool. Yeah, we should be through the the meat of it at that point, and we'll get the, as you see here, I put the e-bike program first. Jean had a dentist appointment early this morning, so we squeezed her in there.
Perfect. Okay. That'll work.
How was council last night?
Very uneventful. I'm thinking
Oh.
somebody must have given some input on how things were going because things have stopped on the other side. So
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's working. We had our retreat this weekend and it was very smooth and no contention.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one I sat in on and gave that just read my statement at was pretty eventful.
Yeah. And that was minor compared to what we normally have.
Oh,
Usually there's at least 10 of them that come in and do that. So
gosh, I haven't been at one. I just hadn't been in a council meeting in so long because of COVID, and it was,
I know.
even though I was there remotely, it was interesting.
Yeah. No, those are the usual comments that we hear.
I get it. I'm about to let Jean Putman in. Just heads up.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Gene.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm sure we'll have people hopping on here in a minute. I didn't get a lot of declines, so hopefully folks will hop on right at the 8 o'clock mark. Hey, Catherine.
All right. How many do we have online, Carson?
Oh, geez, it's a little slow right now. Sure, it's just you and Gene and then our staff. I
Okay,
Tempted to
we'll give it
say.
a couple more minutes.
Give it a few if you're okay with that. Like I said, I didn't get a lot of declines, but I wonder if people are just moving a little slow.
Yeah, this is a busy week. It's hard to believe we're in the last week of April already.
It's crazy, and as you can imagine, the native retreat has eaten up a lot of our time.
Mhm. I think we'll have a good turnout though for NATA. Sounds like a lot of people are excited to come in person.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. The space is not quite as great as the old one, but it's going to do just great, and Deb's team has got it set up, so it'll be there and in person. I'm sure we won't start right at 7:30. That's an early start time for a lot of people transitioning back to in person, but
Yeah.
we'll try.
There we go.
A few more people.
Good morning.
Good morning, Deb.
Greetings from Erie, Colorado.
Yeah, what a weird week. Is it cold out there? I'm heading out in a little while, but I don't know what it's like.
It's trying to be, it's not cold, but it's not flip-flops exactly yet.
Like the week we've had, I think, or like last week. It's not terrible out right now. I had to take kiddos to school already.
Okay.
I don't know who's on the phone, but if you could unmute, or if it's one of you, let me know.
3118. Who's in 3118? 303-362-3118. Can you unmute yourself?
I think it's *9 maybe, or *6. I have never done the phone thing, so I'm not as great.
There
Hello.
we go. Hello?
Hi. Morning. This is Pedro Costa. I'm with the Northwest Parkway. I'm sorry, but I'm driving for the next 15 minutes. I'm on my way to the office.
No problem. Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you.
One, two, three,
I see
4, 5 of us.
That's not quite a quorum. We need 6. So do you
Let's
want
just go
to?
into the e-bike program since we don't need to vote on that. That's probably the easiest.
I see. Pedro, do you
Pedro,
raise
your
your hand?
hand is up, but maybe you're just pushing a button. No worries. We know you're driving. Let's just go ahead and move in with the e-bike program and then we'll see if some more jump on.
I will toss it over to Jean Shreve here, our program manager, and she's going to run through a few slides of a phase 1 update and some lessons learned from that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. I see you have a very robust agenda, so I will try to go through these slides. We have 6 of them very quickly. And the first 2 slides I will particularly go through quickly because they're just update slides. And so I presume that over the course of the last several months since last June, you've had some updates about the e-bike program and kind of are familiar with how it runs. The biggest thing that I just wanted to highlight on this particular slide is that the e-bike program is connected to our 144th Flex Ride and Mobility Options grant that we received through DRCOG back in 2019. That program did get kicked off in November of that timeframe. And the e-bikes program really is one of those mobility options that we wanted to offer to folks up north, and particularly qualified low-income residents at Adams and in Adams or Broomfield counties, so that they would have options other than single occupancy vehicles or not being able to travel at all. So next slide. This is just a visual rendering of all of the programs that we have done to date under the DRCOG grant. And we just thought this might be a good visual to kind of highlight the Flex Ride Shuttle, the e-bike program in terms of phase 1 being completed as of February this year. And what I want to just mention about this is that we do have a loan-to-own program. So when it says that phase 1 e-bikes is completed, that means that all 10 of our e-bike participants have gone through the loan portion of the program and are now in the ownership phase where they will continue to use the e-bikes for trips to work and primarily errands. And they will also continue to provide trip data, which we'll get into here in just a couple of minutes. So next slide. So what I'd really like to highlight on this particular graph is, of course, the map that shows the general locations of where our 10 e-bikers live for phase 1 and then where they work. You'll notice that the majority of our participants live on the east side of I-25 along the Washington Street corridor. And then they're also in close proximity to the N line, which I'll highlight here in a little bit. A couple of the things I'd like to just mention in terms of the phase 1 or the program in general is that phase 1 was funded entirely through the Colorado Energy Office. That means that the $50,000 that's noted there paid for brand new e-bikes, accessories, training, as well as staff time in terms of administrating the program. Phase 2 that will be coming up this spring is for 25 participants and their e-bikes, accessories, incentives. And then what we're doing is we're leveraging RTT funds to help pay for the staff time that's connected to our DRCOG grant. So that's kind of how we found some synergy between the 2 phases and also leveraging the DRCOG funds to be able to then provide 2 phases of this program. To date, we have had 33 applicants. We've had 12 participants, and I'll explain that here in just a second. And then as of yesterday, all of our e-bikers have completed over 10,800 trips since the inception of the e-bike program back in June of last year. So it says 12 participants, and it says up at the top 10 participants. And the reason for this is, again, since we have a loan to own program, that gives e-bikers an opportunity to try out e-biking without a long-term commitment. And we did actually have one e-biker that opted out. He said, this program's just not for me. And so we got that e-bike back. We had it checked for safety and to make sure it was operational. And then it was redeployed to a new e-biker. So that would be the 11th participant. And then the 12th was, or actually is, a person who's on the wait list for phase 2. We, during phase 2, we have budgeted for 10 recumbent, 5 recumbent bikes for folks that may have physical challenges to riding an upright bike. And so that 12th participant is waiting for a recumbent bike under that phase 2. Next slide. So this is data that I really wanted to spend a couple of minutes on that is being generated by our phase 1 e-bikers. And we'll start up at the top under mode share. And one of the things that's I think important to highlight is that, again, there are 7 programs throughout the state. 5 of those programs are using the National Renewable Energy Labs app to actually generate data. So we have an understanding of what modes our e-bikers through all 5 of those programs throughout the state are using, what their purpose is for those trips, and what type of mode their trips are being replaced by. And so they record not just e-bike trips, but also when they drive alone, when they take a taxi, when they take a bus. And what's interesting about our 10 phase 1 e-bikers is that the majority of them don't drive. So most of them car share, as you'll see under the mode share chart. Then you have a very large percentage that walk. And then you have a very large percentage that do drive alone. So, and then the other important thing, I think, with the 755 that you see with the pilot e-bike, if we were seeing this presentation in this pie chart in September, that pilot e-bike piece of the pie would be much larger, because obviously that was good weather where people could e-bike. And then when you get into the winter months where we had some very, very cold spells and some winter weather, it just was not safe for any e-bikers in any of the programs to be out on their bike all the time. So this chart is representative through April of this year, just taking a note of the fact that it also includes those winter timeframes when it was so cold. If you go to trip purpose, I think this is a really interesting graph, because one of the things it shows is that it's doing exactly what we set out to do in this program. It's recording trip purpose, and the majority of those trips are for work. And then the second largest piece of the pie is to go home. So as most people know in the transportation world, a trip in is a one-way trip. So when you see those 10,800 trips, those are going to someplace and coming back. So obviously the second largest piece of that pie is going to be going home. The third piece that I just wanted to mention very quickly is the piece that says other. One of the things that the NREL app allows you to do is to actually tailor your trip purpose. So if this was my pie, because all of the administrators that are participating in the Colorado Energy Office's e-bike program, we all have this app on our phones too. So we do this exact same thing, and they're collecting data for us. So for instance, my other piece of pie includes volunteer food delivery for shut-ins. So my piece of the pie would be much more distinct. And as our e-bikers continue to provide trip data, if those distinct types of trip purposes start to really build up, that pie will start to form what that might look like. So I think that's kind of a unique and interesting aspect of the trip purpose part of the NREL app. Now, the last two charts I want to talk about I think are actually quite exciting. So the one down at the bottom left is the types of trips that the e-bike replaced. So you'll see that the largest percentage of the trips that are being replaced are drive alone and taxi and Uber. And I want to highlight particularly taxi and Uber, because the NREL app was designed by scientists. And so one of the things that they wanted to do was make sure that they were calculating air quality emissions and reduction based on the highest emitters. And in EPA's world, taxis are the highest emitting fossil fuel vehicle out there. And so when you see that large piece of the pie in terms of what e-bikes replaced, and then you multiply that across all of those 5 programs, I think you start to kind of see the type of an impact that this type of a program could have long-term in terms of reducing emissions. And so then if we if we go then to the last chart, in terms of the CO2 emissions that are saved by e-biking, again, you'll see where the largest savings in emissions is for replacing drive-alone trips as well as taxis and Ubers. The other thing that I just wanted to kind of point out on this particular chart is that it has train and it has 0%. But that was at the end of last year when we really started promoting the first and final mile connections between our e-bikers and the N-line rail service. And again, if you go back to that map and you remember that the majority of our participants live in close proximity to the N-line, we really started to promote that opportunity. And that was really one of the reasons that RTD, I think, looked so favorably on our program and helping us to fund it in phase 2 was because we could start to really promote that first and final mile, not just for the N-line, but the G-line and some of the other larger regional corridors that we have that run throughout the region. And then of course, throughout our smart commute service area. So next slide.
So Jean, I just wonder if, are we wrapping it up? Because we got to get moving here a little bit.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I'll just tell you what this slide's about because I'm sure you'll get the slide deck. This is just a graph that shows a breakdown of our e-bike participants in terms of their program status, the industries they work in, and their ethnicity. And then if you go to the next slide. Here's the 3 lessons the largest lessons that we've learned. That this program needs to be very hands-on, that it needs to be a program that's tailored towards the participants that are in the program, that the data is robust, but there are some bugs that we're working out and we're tweaking with NRail to help it be a little bit better in terms of data collection for phase 2. And that the e-bikes do present some logistic challenges just because they're heavy. They don't, you can't carry them on a regular bike rack. And so you have to make some concessions for things like that. So all of those things, as well as some other challenges that we've had, we're tweaking for phase 2 so that hopefully we have a much more clean and seamless program during phase 2. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions on that report? I know that we'll have more information coming from phase 2, just given that this was sort of the first time out there. So questions for Jean?
Yeah, Jean, thank you for this. Super helpful. I got a ton of questions, but limited time, I guess. Are these bikes allowed to travel on sidewalks, or where can they travel?
That's a very good question, Kyle. So we do help e-bikers figure out where they can travel, and it changes or it's different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So Westminster does not allow you to have any type of a bike on their sidewalks, whereas Thornton you can, and I believe they're also changing their regulations to make sure that it's official. And Jessica, maybe you could talk more about that at some other point. So it does vary based on what jurisdiction that you're in, but we haven't had any issues that our e-bikers have had. We've tried very hard to do some trip planning to make sure that they can get to where they need to go safely. So.
And is the idea that this is going to be a scalable project? I mean, it's expensive per person right now, but presumably we're learning a lot of information. Is the idea that it scales to a significant, so it becomes a little less expensive per person? What's the vision for this long term?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's this program is all about scaling up. The CEO will have another round of e-bike funding. In our phase 2, we're going to have in our RFP opportunities for innovative ideas such as why don't we have some manufacturers provide or present proposals for e-bike conversion kits, something that might be a little bit easier in terms of logistics as well as cost savings, kind of getting and addressing to what you're saying. So we're looking at some of those things to help us be able to scale it up.
Thank you.
And Jean, I see your hand up.
I think one of Gene's graphs shows that what trips are being replaced is very important. It shows the effectiveness when it comes to CO2 reduction and the reduction in single-use vehicles on the road.
Thank you, Jean. Any other questions? I know that I have several as well on the specifically the bikes and the folks that were given the bikes in this program, but I'm not going to throw that out there right now because that'll be a long conversation, but we'll have to figure out another time to look at that data. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I had to cut you off. We have so many
No
items
problem.
on the agenda this morning, so I really appreciate your update, Jean.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.
All right, let's go backwards on the agenda. And since we do now have a quorum, we can go ahead and approve the March minutes and then the April treasurer's report. So let's look at the March minutes first. Did anybody have any questions on those minutes? I do not see any. So can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So approved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Who was the second? I can't see who that is.
Pedro Costa.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. All right, if we don't have any questions about that, we'll go ahead and accept the March minutes and we'll take a look at the treasurer's report for April.
Thanks, Chair. I'll keep it brief here. It's a pretty normal treasurer's report. I think our opening balance on March the 1st was $23,334, which is pretty typical this time of year. And it was really a month of waiting for invoices to come in. If you remember from last month, we had a lot of outstanding invoices. And I'll get to that at the end here. Our deposits were pretty typical, except for one I'll point out here at the bottom, a savings transfer. I had to cash flow a little bit from our savings account in order to pay our website contractor for our TMO support grant. It's a reimbursable grant, just like all of our other grants. And with the invoice situation, the way that it was, I did that. And I've already replaced that as some of the invoices have come in. So no big deal there, but we were able to keep that website project moving forward and not run into any issues there. The debits for the month were pretty typical. I'll point you to the bottom, a couple of interesting ones. Karen Stewart's payout for her vacation time that was left over at the end of her time came through. That was 135 hours and totaled $5,845. And our Zoom annual account came due, and our PO Box account came due for the annual checkup. So that was $252 and $124 respectively. Those are the only interesting standout things that aren't typical monthly costs for us. Our ending balance on 3/31 was $19,596, a little low, but our current checking balance as of this morning was $45,474, and our savings balance was roughly $54,000. The outstanding invoices piece here, last time you may remember, we were at about $98,000 in outstanding invoices, which is pretty typical but big for us kind of this late in the year. And this month we had a lot of that come in. As you can see, our outstanding invoices down to about 31,000. Membership renewals are there's still a few out there. I think the big one is Amazon, and they've given me a date of May 21st for their payment. So that's coming through, and a couple of others that are smaller that are I'm just waiting on a check to arrive in the mail. Couple of CMAC invoice from December. There was an issue in executive director changeover name issues on the bureaucracy side. We're getting that worked out, and I've gotten promises that that's coming my way here soon. A FlexRide invoice from February that's just taking a while to process. A TMO support grant, the $10,020. I realized that came in this morning, so this is slightly behind, but that's good that came in this morning, the $10,000. And our marketing contract with RTD for Q1, I was able to get that submitted last week, pretty small, and that'll go up as we have more events throughout the summer. Each one will become a bigger billing opportunity for us. I'll take any questions now.
Questions about the treasurer's report? I don't see any. Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So move.
Second,
All right. If there are no questions, we'll go ahead and accept the treasurer's report. All right, moving on. Are any of these more, do we have to vote on anything else, Carson?
We don't, Chair. I have two short updates, those review and the Dr. Cog, or if you would like to stay on and see the bike gap analysis project, we can flip that around however you'd like.
Let's do that because I have seen the Dr. Cog way to go probably 10 times, so that'll work.
Yep. Yeah. Let me flip forward and I will, sorry for all the flipping today. We're being flexible here. I will hand this over to Catherine, who's been helping us kind of manage this project as we get into the real activity phases on our bike gap analysis project. Just as a reminder, this is a part of our TMO support grant. The $60,000, half went to the website-ish and half-ish went to the bike gap analysis. Take it away, Catherine.
Carson, yes, this is brought to us by our CDOT support grant. So thank you very much to CDOT. We are using this, the resources through this grant to assemble and prepare for a regional level bike map. So this would be cross-jurisdictional. We've never had something that goes beyond all the different jurisdictions. So we are going to be convening a group of stakeholders next week on Wednesday. They're going to be GIS staff as well as planners and bike staff. Our priority is to identify the regional vision for what we want to see as like the top of the hierarchy of a bike map, so that we are all on the same page moving forward with making sure that data exists. We discovered that there are some great, maybe prospective regional level connectors for the bike network that has been identified already by Dr. Cog. So our initial sit down with our stakeholder group is to make sure that everyone agrees that the Dr. Cog vision from their active transportation plan, which was put out a couple of years ago in 2019, that we all agree that that is the regional vision for everyone. And that we can proceed with gathering data, and we might be able to do a little bit more, but we initially with this grant, we're just going to assemble and prepare data so that in another phase, we could seek funding to have it designed and then seek funding to get it printed. We're going to see if we can push it a little bit further than we originally thought we'd be able to with this grant. So that may be coming in the next month that we can provide an update there. But we are, again, our primary goal is to just assemble the data. So do we have those screenshots, Carson? So I can show you. Okay, so this shows you that active transportation plan regional active corridors network. So this is what we would be talking with our stakeholders about if this is the vision that we share. Now, the caveat here is in this visualization. This is just from ArcGIS Online. This is a mix of existing infrastructure and future or planned infrastructure. So some of these purple lines exist and some of them don't. So Carson, do you want to proceed? So for instance, this is an existing section. This is the Big Dry Creek Trail from I-25 over to 120th. That is built. I rode it recently with my kids. Next slide, Carson. However, there is no existing route along E470, but there's a vision for that. So this gives you the idea of a regional vision. So our bike map would of course reflect reality, but we'd also be mindful with our stakeholders throughout all of our jurisdictions that this is in fact the vision that we have for regional biking in the North Metro. So I have a couple other shots that just are more zoomed in sections of what this active transportation corridors plan shows. So again, much of this is built, but a little bit of it is not built, like the N-line bike network you can see right there following along the N-lines right of way. You can flip to the next one, Carson, if there is any more. And a little bit more, this is more prospective planned than it is built right now. The further north we go, the more ephemeral these bike infrastructure gets. And then we can go to the last one if we have it. And then this is of course the far north, and we see like this grand bike network vision, connecting all the different northern communities to our area as well. So part of what we're doing is we're actually biking these sections that are built, and we're doing like a little bit of on the ground fact checking to see how some of the existing infrastructure connects. And then while we're doing that as staff, we're capturing video footage because we want to like get as much out of these activities as possible. So we're actually doing these kind of virtual rides, and we're going to be promoting them leading up to Bike to Work Day. So this is a section of video of me and my kiddos on the Slough Platte River Trail going from 104th north to Brighton. So we're just going to play like a couple seconds of it, Carson.
Yeah, there won't be any audio here. I'm not gonna, it's just a little song, but
It's just music.
these are all on our YouTube page as well, if you're interested. There's only a couple of them up there right now, but I'll just give you a quick example.
Yeah, we were just going to play like 30 seconds of one and 30 seconds of another. So this gives folks an idea of what they would be encountering on these trails, especially for anyone who's new to it. I have to say that Platte River Trail is fantastic for biking with families. It's great pavement. It's very level, and it's almost completely separate from any at-grade infrastructure. So we can keep going, and we'll show that one is, of course, I had my camera on time lapse in a basket in front of my bike, so not super great footage. This is a GoPro, so it's a lot crisper. This is a section of the Farmers Highline Canal, and the full video, we also connect to the Grange Hall Creek Trail that goes through North Glen over to the Margaret Carpenter facilities. So the video is really nice on this one because of the GoPro. But again, the intention, and a lot of these won't have a rider in front. We're going to kind of go out on our own more to capture some of this and do the evaluation, but we wanted to not only evaluate some of our existing infrastructure, so we as staff kind of can speak to how it exists between communities, but we want to also have this to share with folks to promote biking, especially for people who might be a little bit concerned about a piece of infrastructure they've not encountered before. So that is the project in essence. If there's any questions, we'll be back to provide more of an update next month, because at this point, we're really moving forward on this project. And then there's gonna be a lot of changes in the next month, I think.
Questions? I love that. That's great that you have a video actually showing what the trail or whatever is. I think I'll wait for other people first. I have a couple comments and questions. Any other questions or questions for Catherine at all?
I got a question, Catherine. Is the trails that you rode, is that the model for what all the purple trails on that other map are going to look like, or is it a combination? I mean, that's great to have these separated, protected bike trails, but I'm gathering that's probably not realistic in all instances.
Well, I'd say a lot of them are completely separate from any like on-road facilities. There's, I think, a combination within all the different jurisdictions of how crossings are treated, with some jurisdictions like doing, tunneling and things, and others treating crossings at grade. So that is a little bit of a difference. And we'll have some footage, I think, of those conditions as we continue along this project. My experience with our trail network is that, yeah, those are more representative of what the vision is, with the caveat that we are trying to actually build towards something in maybe the next 10 years with that map, and not something that's really far off, where I think we'd all desire to see 100% separation from at grade crossings. That is just not going to happen with the built environment that we have. So it'll be interesting as we capture this footage, because each jurisdiction has approached bicycle facilities in a little bit of a different way, but I think mostly it's the same. But there's a couple of standouts that will be represented and viewable in these videos, which is nice.
Any other questions for Catherine? So I was basically going to ask the same question as Kyle, so that was great to hear that. I think, we have some really good east-west trail systems, but not very many north-south that are connected, especially. I would love to see that map sort of differentiated in color of what exists currently, what doesn't exist, and then the difference between actual separated trail versus on the road just given the way that transportation and unfortunately, the increase in speeding and traffic issues, I'm not comfortable riding on the road anywhere at this point. So I would prefer always to have that off-road. And then, of course, the north, the end line, I would love to see that. Who's supposed to build that? Is that another RTD thing that we'll never see?
I've asked North Glen actually about whether we could go after grant funding for that right of way, but I've not heard really a great answer about who would be responsible for that kind of a trail. But we do know that the right of way has been preserved. So I think that we all should be aware of that. And maybe we should have discussions as a region about how to move that forward, because that would be a fantastic north-south trail, just like what you're identifying right there. The amount of connectivity that we would have and access if that were built well would be really amazing.
Yeah, agree. Jean, did you have your hand up or did you put it down? Or
I
did she
just took it
answer?
down.
She must have answered your question. Okay, well, looking forward to having more discussions about that. I love the idea of having that bike regional map, especially as Adams County builds out that whole regional park system. Jean, hand back up.
Yes, I agree with Jessica that there needs to be a way to designate what's built and what's not. And from a visual standpoint on a map, one that is built be a solid line and one that's not built is a dashed line would help people realize what those gaps are.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that we're gonna promote anything that isn't like a gap that people could traverse, maybe on a different facility, like maybe at grade. I could see treating gaps that way. With the purple line map, that's kind of our starting point for identifying and making sure that everyone in the region agrees that that's where we're building toward, especially if we're going to start representing it on a map, because we do need to bring some hierarchy. But yeah, we're going to be thinking and talking about how we treat those gaps that are not built. And sometimes you just use that grade to traverse those gaps, like you're just getting onto the road system, but sometimes there just is not any infrastructure at all. So in those cases, I don't think that we would put anything on a map in order to confuse people, or even, I think, cause controversy or expectation that something's going to be built in like a very near term. We don't want to like raise expectations beyond reality. But I think as the stakeholder group, we need to understand like that's going to be what we're all pursuing, like that it aligns with everyone's goals for like the major bike highways, and then building out from there with connectors and things like that.
Hey, sorry, I thought of another question. I assume, Catherine, that these are all e-bike friendly trails? Oh, they're not. I'm seeing some shaking of heads. These are.
Jean would know better than me.
I think the issue is that not every jurisdiction has allowed that on their sidewalks, but I know that a lot of us are working on that, making it more clear in the code that that is going to be allowed. So I'm sure by the time this is actually built out, that will not be an issue.
Yeah, thinking about Jean's, any impediments that we have on that e-bike program. And if you don't know which trails you can go on, and quite frankly, if I was on an e-bike, I'd be much happier to be on those separated trails. It just seems like those two are synergistic potentially.
All right, great update on that. Obviously, we're all very interested in seeing how that turns out, and hopefully we can do some kind of a bike tour on that someday ourselves. But I'm going to move us forward. Thank you so much, Catherine. So we'll go back up. Sorry for the flip-flopping around. I've actually got to log off. I have a client meeting this morning, but it looks like we're just going to get some updates. And then Karsten, if you have anything that comes out, I'm sure you'll just let me know. Wadi, I don't know if you're there to help facilitate, but I think we're really just looking at presentations from this point forward.
Yes, I'm here. I'll be happy to jump in. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day,
Thanks, Chair.
everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
I think, like Chair said, these are just some brief presentations. I just have 3 kind of single slide presentations from here on out. We're close to the end here. Those were the 2 meaty ones. I just wanted to take a moment here to think a little bit about our mission statement and goals. Thank you to Kyle for challenging me to think a little bit about the strategic goals and how we align those with our programs and maybe the board updates. So I took some time this month to do that and pull out some goals that I think are applicable and something we can work from moving forward. I'll just read our mission statement here. Smart Commute Metro North works with communities and businesses to promote transportation options and improvements, foster economic vitality, and enhance mobility in the Metro North region. We have three kind of pillar activities that we carry out, or kind of categories. They're not quite goals. Information, action, and advocacy that all of you have probably heard before. They're good pillars for the website. They look nice on a flyer, but they're not quite the goals that we're looking for, right? You can't strive for information. So I've pulled out three of those goals from our mission statement that I think work pretty well. Promote transportation options and improvements, foster economic vitality, and enhance mobility. That promoting transportation options, that's what we do when we encourage the use of RTD or any other alternative transportation options, and advocate via expert feedback for improvements for each mobility option and area via kind of a letter of support, or going and being a part of an expert stakeholder committee, or providing subject matter expert feedback for plans. That's what we mean by promoting transportation options and improvements. Fostering economic vitality, we try to create an environment where business-friendly mobility options are made available to all our employees in the North Metro region, increasing the workforce potential, right? People access to jobs, but also improving recruitment and retention of the folks that are here. Enhancing mobility, creating and offering new mobility options for commuters and residents in the service area. Think 144th Flex Ride, think the e-bike program, think our Water World program that we had a few years ago. It's a new mobility option that we're coming up with in an innovative way to offer to our folks in the North Metro region. I think as we move forward with these goals, I would look for feedback from you guys about these additions, subtractions, clarifications, and then how I will try to kind of angle our board meetings to look towards these a little bit more in the future.
Cool. I appreciate you putting these together. I think it's important as we try and think a bit more strategically as a board to always consider what we're doing through the lens of, you know, what our objectives are. And thank you for taking it from information, action, and advocacy, which I agree. It's hard to get sort of jazzed up about those, whereas these other ones are a bit more tangible. So I think this is very helpful. Thanks. Looks like Pedro's got his hand up.
Yes, Kyle, thank you. This is a great exercise. I think as a consequence of what we do here in Smart Commute, it seems obvious to me that there's other areas that we inevitably end up touching and helping promote by the work that it's done, particularly in terms of sustainability. I know it's not a main goal per se, but it's one that ends up coming out of what we do by promoting sustainable mobility. I mean, I understand, I see the word enhanced mobility, but I suppose that's probably something else we would like to highlight when we are kind of rethinking about these TMO goals.
I thank you for that feedback. I think maybe it's even as simple as adding the word, right, enhanced sustainable mobility options. And that allows us to kind of hit on that. I think sustainability is kind of one of our main pushes right now. We have our carbon footprint analysis, right, Pedro, and we have other kind of offerings that Catherine helps with that we do focused on sustainability. It's a hot topic at the state with the greenhouse gas roadmap. So I think that's really a great point, Pedro, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I will move us forward here. I think all of you are well aware of our DRCOG CMAQ grant, and this is kind of our mainstay of what we do on a day-to-day basis, and a vast majority of our grant funding comes from this. I just wanted to bring it up because I just executed our 22 to 24 contract a couple of days ago, and we're starting to bill against that, just as a brief reminder. So I won't read the top statement. It's just saying that we partner with the DRCOG, other TMOs in the region to mitigate traffic congestion and improve air quality through reduction of VMT. We all know this. So the funding for this grant is $241,000. Roughly, this has gone up from a few years ago where it was an even 200,000. 17% of that is matched by us roughly, and we get that through Adams County. They are able to support us at that larger dollar amount, roughly $25,000 a year. The time frame is April 2022 through March of 2024 in order to complete all the tasks and hours associated with them. So 4 main tasks here, just to realign ourselves. Administration and coordination, 10%. 30% of our work is going toward promotion and marketing of TDM. So think a lot of our promotion efforts and also our involvement in things like expert stakeholder groups, really focused on enhancing TDM as an industry in our area. That's 30% of our time. 50% of our time, which is obviously the largest chunk by far, is supposed to be spent doing employer and community outreach, including Bike to Work Day. And that's what we do, right? We work with all the large employers in our area to try to get mobility options out there and promote all of the Way to Go materials to them, including the My Way to Go carpool matching platform. And Bike to Work Day is obviously a large effort of ours that is starting to come back to more quote unquote normal in terms of workload. And then 10% reporting and surveying seems small, but our North Metro Commute Survey falls underneath this, and that's a large program of ours. So that's an important piece to us. I know this is, like I said, not new news to any of you. I just wanted to realign us to the tasks that are oriented here and kind of the overall picture for the next couple of years for the TMO. I'll take questions if you have any. Gene?
One thing that bothers me is the congestion on our roads. And I think we need to, when we're talking to employers in community, is to talk about flexing work periods. If we were to shift some of our workers so that there's an hour to an hour and a half gap between one release and another release, it would provide a break to some of the congestion we have. And it also helps with bicycles trying to use the roadway in designated paths. If there's less traffic that they have to deal with, the safer it is for them. And I think as part of our communication, we need to start thinking about these flex work where people come to work at a different time and leave at a different time, so that we're not all leaving the office at 5 o'clock.
I think that's a really good point, Gene, and something that we've been doing, maybe not so successfully at a regional level for a long time from the Way to Go partnership. It's a part of our alternative transportation options packet. We always offer flexible work schedules, and it was potentially in the past done with kind of a 4-10 schedule or a compressed work week schedule. They kind of go hand in hand. I think where we're seeing some traction here is coming off of COVID and people's flexibility going to and from the office, right? This is an opportunity to really codify flexible work schedules moving forward. And we're all on board with exactly what you're saying, right? It only helps both VMT and safety on our roadways if we can reduce congestion. And yeah, it's a good point. And I appreciate you bringing it up. All right, seeing no more, I will move us forward. We just have, sorry for all the flipping today. We just have one more short slide to say about our Transforum and 10th year anniversary celebration update. So I've identified kind of 3 dates in late September, and I would like some feedback on that, saying yes or no. It's kind of after the Labor Day, kids are back in school. Hopefully there's some more stability. I picked these 3 dates. They're Fridays. I know it's a little tough, but I thought the morning might be a good time. People are a little bit more open on a Friday morning. We've done that in the past. The venue update, I'm in talks with Adams County about some of their spaces maybe we could get for free. We've started outreach to hotels, but haven't heard back from a few of them so far. We'll let you know when that happens. And we've really taken some time, Tammy and I have taken some time this month to look at our past transforums, each agenda from those, each speaker from those, and have kind of really settled on the fact that our autonomous vehicle presentation at Panasonic was before my time here at Smart Commute, but it was just a great presentation. I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I think Kyle brought it up last time. It'd be great to see where AVs are now, and where they were then, where they are now, and where they're moving forward. So I'm thinking about asking someone at the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. They have a lot of grant funding and a lot of work they do with AV programming to try to help me think about a speaker that would be a little bit larger in that space. That would go kind of as our keynote presentation, and then we would tangentially have videos highlighting the past transforms, and obviously Karen as kind of a tribute video like we talked about last time. So that's where we are on Transforum. Not quite as far along as we would have liked, but it's been a bit of a busy month, and we'll be moving that forward hopefully a little bit more next month when I don't have a NATA retreat to plan on the side. I'll take comments, of course. I guess just, are we good with a Friday morning? Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay, good.
Yes.
It's my main thing before I move forward and start getting real with the planning. The only other thing I have here is 2 events coming up. So we're starting to kick off our summer outreach and classic summer programming here. Tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, my days are mixed up. Friday, excuse me, we'll be doing our first Thanks for Writing Final Friday RTD outreach. So you may remember last year, we did quite a few of these at the end of last year to use up some of the RTD marketing grant funding that we had. We just went out with some coffee and some flyers and information and engaged with writers saying, thanks for writing. Have you tried the inline? Have you tried the bus since COVID? How can we relay your feedback to RTD? They were really successful and good programs. So we've decided to do those on a final Friday throughout the year to spread them out a little bit more and provide some more stability in our invoicing process with them. So that'll be Friday in the morning, 6:30 to 10:30 at Wagoner Park and Ride, so we can hit those early morning bus troopers that are always there waiting in line for the bus. We're excited about that. And then Bike to Work Day is coming up in June this year. We're going to be hosting an open house Wednesday, May 11th. What that means is people will come around, so they don't have to go all the way downtown to grab their posters and signboards and all that stuff, all the materials for Bike to Work Day. Less VMT, right? They'll come to us at North Glen Rec Center from 10 to 2 on May 11th and grab their materials there. And we're already in touch with a lot of our stakeholders on the Bike to Work Day front. Gene, I see your hand.
Can you send all of these visuals to us?
By visuals, do you mean the slides?
All of the visuals that we've seen today, including this one. If you could send that to us attached to an email, I would appreciate.
Sure, yeah, I'll be happy to send the slides right after this. I know it's we just got approval for this Final Friday thing 2 days ago, so apologies on the late send there. We're lean and mean here at Smart Commute, which we're proud of. So I think that's all we have. I've wrapped us up before 9 here. I'd be happy to take comments or questions.
Carson, it looks like Bike to Work Day falls the same day as our June Smart Commute meeting. Are we not going to be having a board meeting that day?
Yeah, thanks for noticing that, Kyle. I noticed that the other day too. And I would say no, probably. I didn't want to bring it to you today. I was going to bring it next month ahead of the next week. But yes, I think we should plan on probably just not having a Smart Commute meeting. And I would encourage each of you, if you can, to come out to the station. We're going to be hosting with North Glen. It's kind of one of our main stations in the morning that morning. If you have this time blocked and want to do that, we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, I know I won't be able to make it because I'm gonna be hosting a station for the city.
Or go see Waddy.
Yeah,
Isn't the next meeting on May 25th? That's what I have in my
yeah, I
calendar.
thought it would be later.
It
Yeah.
in the
is.
month.
It
So it's
is.
May
Let me.
25th.
Our next meeting is May 25th. That's right, Pedro. The Bike to Work Day is June 22nd, which falls on that fourth Wednesday of June.
Here
So
it says May 11th, or this is different. This is open house.
yeah, this is the open house ahead of Bike to Work Day. I know it's a little confusing. Sorry about that. This is the opportunity for all of our coordinators that have host stations to come to us to get all the newest and latest and greatest materials and swag and whatever they need to make that station a success. Does that make sense?
So the event does not really comprise of any bike ride or anything. It's just
That's right. So traditionally, Dr. Cog, the Way to Go team and Dr. Cog that put on this whole statewide Bike to Work Day have an open house at their office downtown on 17th, where people can come by all over the region and get their materials for the event. This is an opportunity for us to do it in each individual region with us and each TMO kind of coordinating with local jurisdictions and local Bike to Work Day stations, as opposed to them going all the way downtown and having to do it there. It's an attempt to reduce VMT as much as
So
we
Carson, to be clear, the Bike to Work event is in June. That's the
Correct.
one that's June. That's the big one. Everyone's
Correct.
riding their bikes. This is just the preparation
can. Yes,
for that event.
yes. Maybe I should write material open house or come get your stuff open house. I think that's the point, right? I mean, you can ride your bike there. We would encourage that, but no, the big one's in June. You're right, Kyle. Thanks for that clarification. Well, with that, I think we're good. Wadi, you want to close us?
yeah. Thanks, everyone. If there's not any more comments, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.